course of the last 30 years, there have been tons of Jurassic Park video games released to help support the movies. Now, believe it or not, back in the 90s, we would get these kind of games all the time, usually in the run and gun or shooter sort of vein, but there was also a bunch of strategy, action, and even fighting games, believe it or not, to go along with the normal platformer stuff. In fact, Jurassic Park didn't start getting park building games up until the Game Boy Advance and PS2 days, and that's pretty much all that's been dominating Jurassic World for a while now. But what are the best Jurassic Park video games? Which ones are what fans remember the most fondly, and which ones were all over the place during the original trilogy's reign at the box office? Today, I wanted to go over a list that actually is not my own personal opinion as far as quality goes, but it is what I think goes down as the top 10 most popular, best representative of the brand, and most nostalgic for fans all across the board. And no, that will not include Operation Genesis, which has been talked about too much in my personal opinion. I also won't be including any of the arcade games because you can't take those home with you. Even though they were designed to actually be available back in the 90s, we never got them back then. So look, these are what made Jurassic Gaming at Home classic back in the day, and what I think are by far the greatest at being true ambassadors of that T-Rex skeleton logo.
Radio force infected. All personnel evacuate. Clear area immediately. Override deactivated.
So to run off the top of the list, number 10 is Jurassic Park The Ride, the game. You guys have probably heard me talk about this thing before in the past. It was an online adventure that basically acted as some sort of point-and-click survival horror experience. You would walk through a lab environment and stumble across people that were on their deathbed, strange clues left by InGen, velociraptors hunting you down and chasing you, and you even wound up meeting a T-Rex. Jurassic Park The Ride, the game, is something that was kind of all over the place if you knew what was going on with the promotion for the ride at Universal. Remember, Lost World is not out just yet. This is 1996, and it represents the logo very, very well. It's dark, moody, and fun, and it was something that people would talk about back in the day, but not as much as number 9, which actually was available for retail at stores. Jurassic Park 3 Dino Defender was nowhere near as dark and eerie as Jurassic Park The Ride, the game, but it was something that I would actually say was one of the better video games made for Jurassic Park 3. Coming out exclusively on PC, this was a game where you suited up almost like a Power Ranger and went around Isla Sorna after this big typhoon hit the island and tried to get Jurassic Park back under control. The Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3 was there, you had T-Rex attacks, the brand new Raptors, Compies, and Pteranodons. This was a game that I think a lot of people look back on fondly, myself included, and I played it back in the early 2000s and I really enjoyed it, but not as much as the next entry on the list. Number 8 is the Lost World Jurassic Park for the Sega Game Gear. Now, I don't hear anybody talking about this one much, which is a shame because it's actually really good. So, the Lost World Jurassic Park on Game Gear has really cool boss battles that feature stuff like the Triceratops, the Tyrannosaurus obviously, but even the camouflaging Carnotaurus, which was something that they left over from the novel. And when you play as a Compy, you even have to fight the Dilophosaurus. There's also Pachycephalosaur levels, baryonic stuff, and look, I just really always liked this game. It's a platformer that I think was overshadowed because not a lot of people had the Game Gear, but the ones that did got what I personally believe to be very representative of that time frame and very fun, and something that I think would be very nostalgic for people to go back to. Now, the next up on the list is something that's really cool. Warpath Jurassic Park was a 1999 fighting game in the vein of Primal Rage or Mortal Kombat, and it basically featured arenas and dinosaurs from the first 2 movies. Although you do have the Spinosaurus back there, but he's kind of smaller than what we would see in Jurassic Park 3. Now look, Warpath is extremely fun. You can fight at the worker village, you can fight in San Diego at the gas station, you can even fight on the SS Venture or inside of the visitor center. It is a very fun game, and the dinosaur designs may have even been inspirational to some of what came later on in the Jurassic Park movies. You've got the Giga, the Stygimoloch, Ankylosaurus, Triceratops. It's something that I think is extremely fun, and they even boosted up the size of the Velociraptor, calling it a Mega Raptor to just be, you know, on a fair level. You gotta have a raptor in there. It's Jurassic Park. It's dark, it's moody, it's very much inspired by The Lost World, and it's something that Jurassic Park fans I know of for a fact are super nostalgic for. Next up is personally what I consider to be the best Jurassic Park 3 tie-in, like bar none. This is the best in my opinion. I don't know why people don't talk about this, but when it comes to Game Boy Advance games, Jurassic Park 3 Island Attack is the best. It's not even like a contest. You play as Alan Grant stranded on the island just like the movie, but you go through 8 levels that actually have a lot of the concepts that were abandoned for Jurassic Park 3 during development hell. This includes things like Grant's motorbike chase, and it even has a much more extensive exploration of the island with different locations like where the Pachycephalosaurs live in a similar area to the Lost World, all the way to a jungle environment and even the harbor where you've got Gallimimuses running by, Compies attacking you, the Spinosaurus in hot pursuit, and I'll be honest guys, this was actually the game that really, it's what I remember the most fondly from the Jurassic Park 3 era. It is extremely nostalgic, very good representation of the third movie, and I'd go as far to say that I really wish we got a movie that was like this. I think when it comes to JP3, this does everything perfect. The T-Rex, great. The Spinosaurus, great. The gameplay and action and boss battles, it's just really fun. It's Alan Grant with a flare gun, shooting at gun barrels and blowing up like powder and burning raptors. There's even different types of raptors like red raptors and blue raptors that are a little more powerful. Fun game, man. Really recommend it.
InGen must be eliminated. I will have control of Jurassic Park. As we speak, my men are on their way.
Next up is Jurassic Park 2, The Chaos Continues, from 1994 or 5, I believe. Now, I guess that's depending on when it came out. This game was the original video game sequel to the first movie. Biosyn is back, they're trying to take over Nublar. Alan Grant goes there with someone called Michael Wolfskin, and they're basically trying to stop the, what's going on in the island. You've got a volcanic level, you've got a mountain with a bunch of pterosaurs, and you've even got great jeep chases with the Tyrannosaur. There's Troodons, Velociraptors, Dilophosaurs. This is a game that I think was very inspirational to what they eventually went in with the Jurassic World trilogy, although, in my personal opinion, it's kind of like take the first half of Fallen Kingdom on the island, only make it, a little more dark and not as, fast food McDonald's. Fallen Kingdom did get dark, but only in the second half of the movie. I've always thought this one is very fun, but it is extremely hard. It's actually notoriously difficult, and it is a game that I think a lot of people are very nostalgic for, and you will be able to get to play it very soon with the new Jurassic Park Classic Games collection that's coming out. Hopefully, fans can actually look back at this stuff and remember how great Jurassic Park video games used to be. We would get them all the time, which, speaking of, we've got my personal favorite. It's not number 1, but I had to include it on the list.
Hell yeah, brother!
Number 4 is Jurassic Park Rampage Edition, also around 1994. It's a sequel to the Sega Genesis game, and it is awesome. This is one of the most fun games you could possibly play on the Sega Genesis. This is Alan Grant or the Velociraptor, depending on who you want to pick, and you basically roam about Isla Nublar, and everybody in creation is trying to kill you. From like crazy engine workers, Dilophosaurs, Triceratops, Pteranodons, and even the T-Rex. This is what I call a very fun game. I've played through the entire game, and I guess it was like a speed run attempt. I only died once at the very end in 23 minutes. I love this game. You need to play it. It's coming back out soon. It's got that like Mayan ruin-esque level on Nublar where Grant is running through like these temples and raptors and skeletons are like everywhere. Fun stuff. Couldn't recommend it any higher. And look guys, this is the kind of game that people immediately would think of when they would think of Jurassic Park. Speaking of which, number 3 is one that I think a lot of you might not expect. So most people are going to be talking about Jurassic Park on the NES or Super Nintendo. Now, believe it or not, I'm actually not going to include that. And you might go, oh, why, Klayton? Everybody remembers Jurassic Park on the SNES. Well, I don't think a lot of people know this, but both of those games are actually less versions. They're kind of like more platform and console restricted versions of the bigger game that came out. And Jurassic Park and the SNES had these really cool levels where you would go into like a visitor center, and instead of it being overtop view, it would actually be first person like Doom. Well, the actual bigger game that Steven Spielberg, I think, even overlooked the development on was the Jurassic Park game on the Amiga. Now, this was really cool. It does look a lot like Doom. It kind of looks even cooler in my opinion. You've got like raptors jumping at you when you go first person, and Grant is just blowing them away with a shotgun. This game is awesome. I've never personally played it, but I've always wanted to. Nobody had Amiga back in the day. Everybody had a Nintendo or Super Nintendo, but this was the big game that the Nintendo and Super Nintendo versions were kind of based off of. And look, personally, this is one that I think a lot of fans would love to get a re-release of, but we just never really have. And I think a lot of you might not even know this exists, but this is extremely representative of the brand. It's extremely cool, dark, fun, and just, it's very Jurassic Park. I would have included the Super Nintendo version had this version not existed. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, man, I would recommend all three personally. It's just, this one is like the most refined and, best of the bunch as far as graphic fidelity and tone goes.
That's quite an achievement. My gosh, you looked a 20-foot carnivore right in the eye, and you've lived to tell about it? Well, you are something.
Number 2 on the list, for a lot of people that grew up like me, The Lost World Jurassic Park on the PlayStation 1, or Sega Saturn if you were one of the 5 people that bought that. So the Lost World video game was really cool. You start off as the compy, before progressively leveling up to like a Dieter Stark character hunter, and then a Velociraptor, and then you get to be the T-Rex, which the back of the box actually like exclaimed really, really cool, but you gotta work your way up to that. Now, the cool thing about this game is that it's just extremely Jurassic Park. The entire tone of Site B, the animal noises, and the attacks are awesome. There was a greatest hits version they released, I believe, a year later in '98 that actually had an opening level in Jurassic Park where you play as the T-Rex on the island, but that's not in the base game. And ironically enough, I actually think that the end of the game, the 3 levels you play as Sarah Harding, are the easiest. I love those levels. I can play those back to back to back any day of the week. But yeah, The Lost World Jurassic Park. A lot of people remember this game. It was everywhere. But again, it's not number 1 because a lot of people said this game was outrageously difficult. I mean, I don't blame them. It is a very, very hard video game to beat, but not as hard as the number 1 on the list, which don't kill me here, but I had to put it there. Oh yeah, he died. Trespasser Jurassic Park is one of the most controversial video games ever made, and I may even do a complete video in the future going over just why I think it deserves a remake. But right now, man, I can't say that Trespasser was not a good representation of Jurassic Park. I will not say that it's not nostalgic, and I will not say that fans do not desperately want to play it today, because they really do. And look, this is the thing. Fans are so into Trespasser over anything else like Operation Genesis or Jurassic World Evolution that they're even making their own levels. They're making their own remakes in VR. This is a game that I think people just, when they think Jurassic Park, they're like, I need that first person open world experience where I'm actually going from level to level, fighting dinosaurs, picking up key cards, and learning secrets of engine, while Richard Attenborough himself, John Hammond, is talking in a narration style every time I come across something new. This is the closest the game's ever got to getting a full-blown sequel, and it is, in my opinion, the most Jurassic Park game that actually feels like the movies. I don't know what exactly went down behind the scenes, apart from what I've told all of you guys before in the past, but it had to have been terrible because people just, they always say like this was a disaster and a failure of a game, and it was not finished when they shipped it to retail. But hey man, they could change that. They could easily remake this game. Night Dive Studios, if anyone out there is like listening on YouTube or something, listening, please at least think about it, because Trespasser is a game you would make money from. Jurassic Park fans have been dying for something like this to happen, and Seamus Blackley's work on the canceled sequel is what eventually led to the Jurassic World trilogy of movies getting made. When it comes to games that actually represent the brand great, even though this one was a failure and it ended up being unfinished, I can't lie and say that this does not encapsulate the entire series when it comes to the look, feel, tone, and also innovation and revolutionary ideas that they had, just like the first Jurassic Park with the CGI. But hey guys, those are all just my own thoughts and opinions on the subject matter. I hope you enjoyed this list. I tried to be more objective and less subjective in my own personal feelings. That's why Trespasser's #1, even though I've complained about it. You can look back in the past for all of my playthroughs of it. I've got a full list of the entire game that I go through. Hope you guys can leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. It does help the channel. But yeah, I love Jurassic Park. I love the first 2 movies especially, and the era in which they were coming out. The games on this list from 1994, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like they just kept coming and coming, and these newer things like Jurassic World Evolution are fun in their own right, but I just can't get behind them. And I know that there's a new TV series called Chaos Theory, but it's animated and it's like Camp Cretaceous season 6. They made all those seasons in like 2 or 3 years. It's crazy, man. Anyways, whatever your own thoughts on and what your favorite Jurassic Park game has to be, I'd love to hear all about it, guys, in the comments down below. Now, before I go, I want to thank everyone that's helped me build my channel over the years. I'd also like to thank every one of you guys who've watched my stuff. You've all been extremely cool to me. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a like and hope that you'll consider subscribing. God bless you all. Christ is King. See you guys in the next video, and as always, take it easy.